the shadows of the old library halls, where the dust is thick and the silence calls. Books tell stories of the things unseen, of foxes wild and spirits keen. Whispers in the stacks they creep, ghostly chills that steal your sleep. Paranormal truths no one believes, they linger here like autumn's leaves. Bibles open to verses dark, stories written to leave their mark. The wildlife outside hears the moans, silent foxes, the forest groans. The last of these you cannot tame, a history buff who knows no shame. Paranormal life outside hears the moans, silent foxes, the forest groans. The past of beast you cannot tame, a history buff who knows no shame. Paranormal tales in every spine, haunting truths that cross the line. Whispers in the stacks they creep, ghostly chills that steal your sleep. Paranormal truths no one believes, they linger here like autumn's leaves. Spirits waltz through moonlit air, books fall down as if to dare. Foxes howl in the wooded shade, they guard the truths that time forbade.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Let's get on camera here. There we are. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad you could join me this evening on this. I guess it becomes summer very quickly, right? Tomorrow's the first full day of summer, but I think it turns summer this evening at some time. So happy summer, everyone. Right, Lenny? On behalf of Lenny, Victor, and then Edgar's hanging out back here, right behind me. There's Edgar hanging out. So we're all here and ready to go. Let me just say hello to everybody in the chat before we get started here. Hello, Adam. Hello, Crumel. How are you, Suzanne? Let's adjust our camera here so we can. There we go, and that's clearer. Hello, Arlene. Hello, Delilah. How are we doing this evening? Deb Roberts, good to see you. Thindu, my brother, is here. Osada Treats. Who else? Anyone else here? Sweet Tea, good to see you. Thank you, as always, for that intro. Very much appreciate it. Tammy is here. Great to see you. Tammy's always here. And Emmanuel Spatato, good to see you. So a light crowd this evening, but I appreciate you all the more so because you chose to spend some time with me. And tonight we're going to talk about Arkansas. Now, we already talked about Arkansas once, but these are additional stories. I figured it's worth doing again because there's a lot of good stories here. So I wanted to do a second episode on the great state of Arkansas. Let's light our candles. If I can get this one, there we go. All right, we're off and running to the races, as they say. And then this evening, I have some pictures for you guys to look at if you want to stay around and tell me your thoughts. And the pictures, most of the pictures actually are related to the last story that I'm going to tell. So you'll see the connection. There we go. There we go. All right. Right, Lenny? What are you leaning up for? You're like all leaned in. They don't look interested. You need to be interested in this stuff. Lenny. All right, he just doesn't want to stay today. Very fidgety today. Anyway, he's going to fall over. I'm going to put you up closer. Voila. There you go. That'll work. But get this arm out of here, dude. You're in my way. All right. Anyway. So, Bobo, good to see you. Bill C., good to see you. Sweet Tea is back. She was here before. Good to see you. All right. All right. Now, let's start with our Arkansas ghost stories. Now, the first one that I'd like to talk to you about is called the Gordon Ghost Light. Now, this one will sound familiar only because it's a tale that's been said in a bunch of different states. You know, it's a common tale, and it's really about. Let me go. There you go. It's really about a train accident and a train conductor and how his ghost lives on after the accident that took his life. And we've had one in New Jersey, we've had one in other states as well. This one is in Gordon, Gurdon, Gordon, Arkansas, and it's called the Gordon Ghost Light. And this light that signifies a ghost will appear on an old abandoned railway track out in the woodland areas. And seems to be the case over and over again. Whenever I hear this story, it's a similar story. So this one is a little bit more detailed because the previous stories were a little bit more vague. This one is more detailed and it's more linked to a documented murder because in 1931, the Missouri Pacific Railroad had a foreman by the name of William McLean. And he fired a worker by the name of Louis McBride because Louis McBride fell asleep at the wheel, caused a derailment, caused thousands of dollars of destruction, the train to be derailed, and a whole calamity. So William McLean, who was the supervisor, I guess, whatever you have it, he fires Louis McBride. Now, Louis McBride didn't take too kindly to this, and in fact, goes back and catches his boss in the train, one evening, and proceeds to beat him, and beats him so badly that he actually kills him with a pickaxe. Actually killed him. And then threw his body onto the tracks, leaving it there, believing, I guess, that he would get away with this, but he did not. So he's later arrested, convicted, and executed. Now, the ghost light supposedly is the ghost of Willie McLean because he was the man that was murdered and his body was left on the tracks. So it is said that this ghost light is Willie McLean walking along with his lantern in eternal unrest because of what happened to him. And there's actually a picture of it that I would like to show you. Hold on one second. Let's get it up here, if I may. There's a picture of the ghost light. Now you could see here's the railway right here. The railway is on the left side. And if you look down, you see in the distance, you see this ghostly light just appearing on the tracks. This is the ghost light, the Gordon ghost light. And over the years, this has appeared since the 1930s, still appears to this day. Nobody can come up with a real world explanation as to why this light is there. So people attribute this to the ghost of William McLean, the poor foreman, I guess, that was murdered at the hands of his angry and former employee. So if you're ever in Gordon, Arkansas, you may want to take a little walk along the old train tracks there and see if you could see this light in the distance on a dark night. So that's your first story, the ghost light of Gordon, Arkansas. Let's stop sharing that. There we go. Now we're better. Okay. Hello, Kelly. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. All right, that was number one. All right, let's go on to story number two. Now, story number two is the haunted old arsenal tower of Little Rock. Now, a lot of my stories you're going to see take place in Little Rock. That's just where the interesting stories have an origin. So I did look around the state in different areas, but that was the one that was it had the most activity. So the old Arsenal Tower. Let's start off with a picture so you know what I'm talking about here. Here you have a picture of the old Arsenal Tower. Now, the background to this is that this was originally a military establishment built in 1840. Built for Indian wars, built for fighting the Indians, local Indian tribes that were in constant dispute over lands on the western side of Arkansas. Now, during the Civil War, though, this becomes a Confederate stronghold. So it's used as a base for the Confederates. As you know, Arkansas was a southern state, saw a lot of fighting in the area, and this becomes a Confederate stronghold. So the interesting thing about this place, too, is also General MacArthur was actually born on the property because this was a military base. His father was in the Army at the time when he was born. So he was an Army brat from the very beginning. So General MacArthur from World War II fame was actually born here on the property, surrounding property to this. Now, the fort over the years had been dismantled, and the tower that you see in this picture survived. The tower, is a structure that's survived since 1840. Now, what happens around this tower? What are the ghostly activity that happens around this tower? And they say that if you take a tour of this is a historical site. You can go in there and take a tour. You may encounter some ghostly activity. Now, one ghost that you might encounter is a young lady dressed in Civil War era dresses, smoking a cigarette, and she'll stand in the front stairwell. This is interesting because a ghost outside of the perimeter. It's a ghost that's standing out on the stairwell to the tower. And you may see her. And many have said that they thought she was a reenactor because of the Civil War dress. They're there. It's a historical site. A lot of reenactments happen at this site. But when they approach her, she looks at them and then vanishes into thin air. So obviously not a reenactor, a spirit of a woman from the Civil War. Nobody knows why this spirit's there. There is no specific record of a woman dying here during that time period. So your guess is as good as mine why this ghostly woman is here. Now, over the years, there's also been have this same woman has also been seen in the windows up there, the windows on the second floor, looking out, watching visitors as they leave. So you go on a tour of the place as you're leaving. If you turn back and take a look up, you might see her in the window watching you as you leave. So that is a bit creepy. And then over the years as well, there has been constant sounds of chains of military chains, the chains of the sounds of chains drawing military ammunitions, military munitions across the floor, or across the stone floor. None of that stuff is there. There are no chains there, but people will hear those sounds echoing through the hall and the outside building. So, it was an armory, it was a fort. So these things happen there. So obviously that you might hear these because of that. And then the final ghost is the ghost of someone by the name of David O. Todd. Now, David O. Todd has an interesting backstory as well. Let me get this off here, by the way. You're cutting my face off, so let me remove that. David O. Todd was a 17-year-old boy in 1864. Now, in January of 1864, there was a lot of fighting that was going on in Arkansas. In fact, this portion of Arkansas was captured by the Union. Little Rock was captured by the Union. Now, David's father was a Confederate war profiteer. In other words, he was supplying things to the Confederate Army. And David worked for his father. And David would routinely take trips for his father, providing either delivering supplies or providing messages as to where the supplies might go, where they're needed, et cetera, et cetera. Hello, Vincent Capisci. How are you? Good to see you. Now, unfortunately for him, on January 8th of 1864, he is captured by Union soldiers on the premises near the old armory. And on his person, they find plans for Union movements. In other words, stolen plans as to what the Union troops would be doing. Now, it's up for grabs whether he truly was a spy or not, whether he knew he was delivering these plans, because, again, he was 17 years old. He worked for his father. He did what his father told him. Obviously, it could be very realistic conclusion. It could be a very realistic conclusion that he didn't know he had these plans on him. Nonetheless, he had them on there. He's tried and he's executed for being a spy. And he's actually hanged on the premises not far from the old Arsenal Tower. And people will say they will see him swinging in midair, either from a tree or from the rafters of that building at various times. And this poor, possibly innocent 17-year-old boy lost his life because of thought to be a spy. So who knows? So the ghost of David O. Todd seems to reside at the old arsenal. All right, so that was number 2. Let me just take a sip real quick. Excuse me. All right, so we only have 9 people here, but that's okay. We'll do what we do. I don't know where everyone is this evening. Do you, Lenny? How about you, Edgar? Edgar's going to spin around a little bit, see what's going on. All right, number 3, the third story. The Massacre of Moss Mountain. Now, this is going back a ways, this story. This story goes back to 1808. No, I'm sorry. No. 1819. No, I'm not that far off. But the story really centers around an individual by the name of Thomas Nuttall, who came from England to America in 1808. That's where I got the dates wrong, 1808. And led an expedition up the Arkansas River at the time. Now, this was frontier territory at the time, Arkansas. And he and his party were explorers. And they, during the course of this exploration, many of them acquired malaria. So they were very sick from mosquito bites. And they get to a place called Beaver Dam Island. And they set up camp on the shores. Most of them are very sick, fevers, etc., etc. So they begin to stand the night. They go to bed that evening. They light fires. This is Halloween, believe it or not. It's October 31st, 1819, when they arrive at Beaver Island, Beaver Dam Island, excuse me. As they go to sleep, a heavy fog rolls in from off of the river, off of the bodies of water around there. And it was very thick to the point that you could barely see anything. At the same time, a cool mass of air comes in as well. So as this goes on, many go to sleep. The fire is still raging. Thomas Nuttall set up his camp, his personal bed, or whatever you want to call it, farther away from the fire and farther away from the rest of the men for some reason. Many think it's because he was so sick, he was so feverish, he didn't want to endanger others, but he was in bad shape. So he set himself back a ways from everyone else, and then goes to sleep. Now, in the middle of the night, Halloween night, he is awoken to a ruckus, a lot of noise. He wakes up and he sees through the mist, through the fog that engulfed the campsite at the time. He sees large humanoid creatures attacking the rest of his party and really getting slaughtered. The men are really getting slaughtered. In fact, when all is said and done, only 4 of this party of 20 survive, and Thomas Nuttall is one of them. And it's only because he was so far back from the campsite area, and the few people that were near him survived. But the rest were all slaughtered in the night by these unknown creatures who, as the mist leaves, as the fog leaves, so do the creatures. So there's nothing left but dead bodies in the morning. Now, where does this lead me? Well, let me show you what Thomas Nuttall looked like. I do have a painting of him. This was before pictures, but there was a painting of him that I wanted to show you. So here we go. Let's show you what he looked like. There's our man, Thomas Nuttall, who witnessed the massacre on Moss Mountain. It actually occurs on Beaver Dam Island, which is next to Moss Mountain, but they call it the Massacre of Moss Mountain. Now, this happened, remember, in 1819, so a very, very long time ago. But over the years, as a result of this such a traumatic and horrible event, that the ghosts of these poor people who lost their lives such a heinous manner return and walk the shores of Beaver Dam Island. Many have seen them, and they say they come from the river. They come from the water, and they come up in mass, walking on land, and always accompanied by a fog. So tales of a creepy fog being the cover for these spirits as they come, and usually on Halloween night seems to be the anniversary. It makes sense. That's when they lost their lives. There's also mystery lights that flicker around the island at various times. No one can finger point a earthly reason for these lights. And the temperatures will often drop for no apparent reason, where the rest of the area is in a heat wave, and it'll be very cold on Beaver Dam Island. Who knows? So the slaughtered men of Thomas Nuttall's party, I guess, expedition, their spirits return every Halloween to walk aimlessly onto the shores of Beaver Dam Island. Now, at the time, many did not believe this story from Nuttall. Nuttall came back and wrote a book about this, wrote his journal about what he witnessed. Many said that they must have just been slaughtered by Indians because it was in hostile Indian territory, and that he must have been just in a delirium from his malaria, and that there were no creatures or ghostly monsters or whatever that killed these men, and that they were just Indians that may have done it. But he swore to his deathbed that what he saw had nothing to do with the fever, that there were these large creatures that came and viciously attacked and slaughtered his party. So who knows? I leave it up to you as usual. Hello, Paulie Donuts. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for coming in. All right, that was number 3, the Massacre of Moss Mountain. All right, now on to number 4. Number 4 is called The Dog Boy of Quitman, Arkansas. Now, what are we talking about, dog boys? What are we talking about here? Is this a dog that's a boy that looks like a dog or something? No. He's called the Dog Boy because as a child, he would, his name is actually Gerald Floyd Bettis. And as a child, he would capture stray dogs and viciously and sadistically torture them to death. So much so that he had so many dogs around him all the time. He was capturing these stray dogs and keeping them in his yard. And people began to call him the Dog Boy because of this. So he got this nickname, this moniker, because of his evil activity he was doing with these poor creatures, killing them, torturing them, whatever he was doing. Now, I'll show you where he lived. This is the house in which he lived at 65 Mulberry Street in Quitman, Arkansas. And here's what it looked like. Where'd it go? Here it is. Just a very unassuming, simple house, right? This took place in 1954, so it's not that long ago. Now, Gerald Floyd Bettis, and I'll show you a picture of him too, is basically the source of all the evil around here. He is the bad guy, and his spirit is quite an evil spirit that comes back and haunts. But let me show you what he looked like. Where is this boy? Where is this guy? Here he is. There is the Dog Boy, Gerald Floyd Bettis. He was actually born in 1954, so it's even sooner than that. And he would do this in the early 60s as a child. In the early 60s, he grows up. He grows to be 6'4" and 300 pounds. So he is a quite of a monster himself. This evil person, and in addition to the creature, the animals that he tortured, he was an only son, an only child of 2 elderly parents, and he basically keeps them hostage as an adult. He keeps these old parents hostage. And in 1981, his father dies under mysterious circumstances. And this is only after many times the police having to be called to the premise to deal with domestic disputes between him and his parents. In fact, one of these disputes found the father hanging out the second floor window, and thankfully survived at that particular time. But basically, it turns out what he was doing is he was starving his parents. He was keeping them prisoners, denying them food, and they were basically living as prisoners to this psychopath. Now, he finally gets arrested sometime in the 80s for elderly abuse for his mother. The police finally get enough evidence to arrest him. And um, while he's in jail in 1988, he actually dies from an overdose. He was also a terrible drug user. So this guy is your all-around American psycho. Just a hideous creature. Tortures helpless animals, keeps his parents captive, starves them, and then tries to abuse them on top of that, and is a drug user on top of it. So he's the worst, the worst of the worst. So how does this turn into a ghostly area? Well, obviously, the evil that was in him was more so than just him, that it gave him the power to come back in a spiritual form. And it is said that he haunts that house to this day. Now, people have seen him, a very large apparition wearing a brown jacket and a bow tie, and you'll see him on the top floor. When people come into the house, he'll get very angry and will rattle things, rattle the banister of the stairs, not wanting anyone in the house. It is said that a stack of pennies was found to be floating on the stairwell. I don't know what the significance of that is, but that was one of the encounters they had with this evil spirit. There's also the spirit, believe it or not, of a World War I soldier that lives in that's been seen in this house, and it's not clear, what this. Some think this might be his father in a young form, because his father was an older father when he was born. He was much older than he was in his 50s, so he could have been a World War I veteran, I guess. Yeah, he could have been, right. Yeah, he was in his late 50s, so he could have been a World War I veteran. So maybe this is the father that they see sitting in the living room of this particular house. And people have said this is another thing about this guy. Is now this guy, Bettis himself, they say that as time got older, got on, Paulie Donuts, thank you for joining. Thank you. Thank you so much. Or for giving a membership, whatever you do, gifted a membership. Thank you. So 5 memberships. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for the support. Really appreciate that. That's awesome. Maybe I'll maybe I'll it doesn't tell me who got the memberships though. That's interesting. Why is that? Did 5 memberships. It doesn't say. But thank you. If I have enough members, I'll do a membership show. Why not? I think I only have 5 memberships, so now I'll have 10. Thank you. Anyway, so what am I doing here? So Bettis, his spirit, as time got on, they say that his spirit took on the form of animals because of his link, maybe, to the torturing of these animals, that his eyes would glow like that of a cat, and that his features became more animal-like, more dog-like. This is the spirit, not him in real life, but as he appears kind of like a morph between a human and an animal in his features, and that his eyes glow bright red. So quite an intimidating and creepy sight to see. So who knows? One thing's for sure: this was an evil, sadistic man. Whether he was possessed by a demon, I don't know. I have no clue, but he is quite an evil person, and his spirit is there probably, and his father's spirit as well. Remember, the father died in suspicious circumstances, believed to be him. Believed to be the cause of this wonderful person did to his father and his mother. But anyway, his evil spirit lives on, unfortunately, in that little house. So. And they say over the years that many people, they've had a very hard time since the mother died of selling that house. Whoever is in charge, whoever the heirs are, whoever buys that house doesn't stay there long without selling it. because of these activities. So just a negative place to be because of a negative person that lived there. So that's the dog boy of Quintman, Arkansas. All right, that's enough of looking at that evil guy. All right, that was number 4. Let's go on to number 5. Number 5. Don McHugh, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for stopping in. Appreciate it. All right. Let's talk about the Empress Bed and Breakfast, also in Little Rock. Now, let's start off by showing you what I'm talking about. Now, the Empress Bed and Breakfast is a beautiful building, a beautiful house structure here. Here is a picture of it. Beautiful Victorian house that is now a bed and breakfast. But before it was a bed and breakfast, it was built in 1888. Hello, Osada. See no evil. Good to see you, my friend. And this was originally called the Hornibrook Mansion because it was built by someone by the name of James Hornibrook and built in 1888. Now, Hornibrook was a local saloon magnate or a baron or whatever. He had multiple saloons and he made his money through that. So he was not really looked upon as the upper class. The upper class, the old money there, looked at down upon him. So he built this beautiful mansion to kind of show off his money and kind of throw it in their face. At least that's what the story goes. Now, let me show you what. If I do have a picture, I think I do have a picture of him somewhere. Let's get rid of Dog Boy. We don't need Dog Boy around. He's annoying. We don't need that either. Goodbye. We don't need that. We don't need the ghost light. We went over that. I don't think I have maybe I don't have a picture of him. I don't know. I couldn't find a picture of him. All right. Well, nonetheless. Oh, here I do have a picture of him. Hold on. Here we go. This is our friend James Hornibrook. Hold on. Not the most attractive dude with them ears, that handlebar mustache and them ears. But he dies in 1890. So he is not around much longer. He builds this house. He finished building it in 1888. He lives in it for 2 years and he dies. Now, he dies under mysterious circumstances, so nobody really knows what happened. He was only 49 at the time when he perished, so he wasn't an old guy. But he's responsible for the Empress Bed and Breakfast. Now, what goes on in here? And he wasn't an evil guy. He was just a normal guy, a saloon keeper that, wanted to fit in with the upper class, I guess. So he built this beautiful mansion. Well, a couple of things that happened. There's actually 4 different ghosts that can be seen in the Empress Bed and Breakfast in Little Rock, Arkansas. The first one is the apparition of an African-American maid. Now, you'll see her walking downstairs, doing her duties, so to speak. She's quite a pleasant spirit. She's always smiling. She will see you and will interact with you in the sense that she will acknowledge you and give you a smile, go about her business, go around a corner and vanish. So no one really knows her name other than that was a maid, and you will see her on the first floor of the Empress. The second ghost is James Hornibrook himself. Now, they see him usually, he stands at the top of the stairs watching a lot of times. A lot of times we'll see his apparition at the top of the stairs watching over, well dressed, as you could see in that picture, always dressed to the nines, I guess, watching over people, watching over his property, I guess. Want to make sure everyone is being taken care of. So, not a negative spirit, kind of a positive guy. The third spirit is a woman in pink. Now, she watches over the guest rooms on the second floor. Why that is, nobody really knows. No one knows, who she is. There's no necessarily backstory that goes along with it, only that they see a woman in a pink dress, 1800s, wandering on the second floor, but doesn't ever leave the second floor. Always on the second floor, looking through the guest rooms, one after the other. And the fourth and final ghost is a sea captain, which is interesting because this is nowhere near a sea. I mean, unless it's the Arkansas River, I don't know. But there's a sea captain you'll see, and they say he's a sea captain because he has like a weathered face, weathered skin, much like a sailor that's been out on the ocean for many years. And he'll wear a cap. He has a white beard with a weathered face, with a blue coat with large buttons, much like you would see an old sailor wear. So, and he usually is lounging around, sitting in a chair in the common room, the old the old living room, so to speak, of the bed and breakfast. Now, a couple of things that happen in addition to seeing these specific apparitions: you'll hear footsteps, doorknobs will open, jiggle, and then open. The door will open on their own. There'll be giggling, they'll hear laughter, and in the area where there was a room that Hornerbrook used to have games of chance, he used to have poker games and other card games take place. In that room, there will be, if you go in there at times, there'll be a blast of cold air, laughter, and the clinking of glasses as if people were toasting. You'll hear that on without seeing anyone there, obviously. So, a party room, I guess. These spirits are still partying after all these years, and a lot of this stuff happened. It's interesting because usually you hear the ghostly tales that carry on throughout the years. These ghostly tales did not start until 1993. And it is said that it's probably because that's when renovations took place to turn this place into a bed and breakfast. Before that, it stayed as a private residence. So the activity of changing the environment seemed to have brought about these four spirits to begin appearing. So there you have it. The Empress Bed and Breakfast, courtesy of James Hornibrook. All right. That was your fifth story. We have one more story to go through. Now, hold on your seats for this one, because this story deals with the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. And this particular location does not have one spirit, does not have three spirits, does not have four spirits. It has 11 different spirits in this building. Quite a haunt, right? Now, let me show you what it looks like, and this will kind of explain, I think, a little bit as to why there's so many. Here we go. It's quite a huge structure. Very castle-like, actually. And it was originally built 139 years ago in Eureka Springs, and it was built as a spa, like a place for people to go and rest and rejuvenate. Now, This building was purchased in 1937, so it remained a spot. It was purchased in 1937 by an individual by the name of Norman Baker. Now, Norman Baker was not a nice person. In fact, he was a grifter. He was, as we say, a quack. He pretended to be a doctor, yet he had no credentials to ever back up that he was one. There we go. We're losing our candles here. They're getting too low. There we go. Now, he claimed to have the cure for various cancers, and people would buy into this and believe it and will go and stay at the Crescent Hotel to receive his treatments. Well, his treatments were all humbugs. They were nothing but completely made up garbage. And as a result of that, many people perished and died in this hotel when it was a hospital. It was a treatment center. Now, let me show you what he looked like. And when you see this picture, you could tell just by looking at him he's no good. At least that's my take on it. Where is he? Where is this guy? Look at that guy. He looks like he's no good. He looks like he's up to no good, even in that picture right there. Terrible. So he's the origin. He is the cause, I guess, the guest, I guess, of some of the spirits in here because of his quackery and the fact that so many people perished at his believing in his nonsense. All right, so let's get back to the stories themselves. Let's talk about these 11 ghosts. There I go. There I am. I'm back. Okay. Sorry about that. So, like I said, 1937, Norman Baker purchases the hotel, causes a lot of harm. Now, the first person you may encounter, first spirit, is a woman by the name of Dorothea. She is said to inhabit room 419. Now, like I said, this is now a hotel. It's an actual functioning hotel. So, each of the rooms have numbers, and many people stay here every year. Well, Theodora was a cancer patient that died thanks to Norman Baker's treatments. So, if you see her, you may see her in a dress of a 1940s look, 1930s, 1940s, that type of dress. The second ghost you may see is a boy, a 4-year-old boy. And his name is Clifton Brecky Breckenridge. His nickname was Brecky, 4-year-old boy. He likes to play ball. You may see him running around playing ball. Many people who bring kids here will find that their children say they go out and play with a boy who wants to play ball with them, and then there's this boy is nowhere to be found. There's no other children staying in the hotel at the time. So many people believe it's Brecky, the spirit of Brecky, doing this. Now, he likes to show up in photos too, they say. So a lot of times you may see his image or a blurred version of his image that will show up in a photo if you take it inside the hotel. So Brecky is the second ghost. The third is Norman Baker himself, the villain here. He's often seen in the lobby, either sitting in a chair or wandering about, looking over things. Not much to him other than that you might see him there, and he looks just like that picture I showed you with glasses and 1930s suit, walking around pretending to be a doctor in the afterlife, I guess. The fourth ghost is a ghost in a nurse outfit. So it's a woman in a nurse outfit who is said to believe to be one of the people that worked for Norman Baker, and tried to treat these patients, and must have perished for some other reason, and is whose spirit is still there. So who knows? The nurse. The fifth, the fifth spirit is said to be that of an Irish stonemason by the name of Michael. And it is said that he fell from the building, from the balconies on this building while they were building. It fell to his doom, and he's said to hang around in room 218 specifically. You'll see him in 218 for some reason. He likes to touch female guests. So he's a bit of a flirt, I guess, or a Casanova, I guess he thinks he is. But he'll touch female guests, not in a negative way, touch their shoulders, touch their back, etc., etc. Um, it is also said that you may see him in a mirror in room 218. You may see his apparition if you look in the mirror. He might be somewhere in the background in the room itself. You might see him that way. All right, so that's number 5. That's the number 5 ghost. Number 6 is someone by the name of Dr. Ellis. Now, he is not related to Norman Baker. He is the in-house doctor that the hotel, the spa, before Norman Baker took it over, in the turn of the 20th century, had an in-house doctor that stayed there and helped, anyone who needed help while they were staying there, just on the spot medical services if need be. Hello, Teresa. Thanks for stopping in. Really appreciate it. Now, Dr. Ellis is said to be mostly in room 212. That seems to be where he hangs out. And you will smell his pipe. He was a very noted pipe smoker. You'll smell the sweet smells of his cherry pipe. So kind of a pleasant experience to encounter Dr. Ellis. Number 7 is a ghostly cat, believe it or not, by the name of Morris. Now, this ghostly cat is a marmalade tabby, and he died in 1994 and is said to still be wandering around in the afterlife, catching mice. So I don't know. So Morris the ghostly cat is still there after all these years. Number 8 is a Victorian man dressed in a Victorian era who often sits in the dining room looking out the window. And when people will approach him, he will actually interact with them and speak to them. And the words he will say is, "I saw the most beautiful woman here last night. I'm waiting for her to return." And that's all he'll say, and then he'll vanish. So these people have an encounter where they see him sitting there. He acknowledges them. They hear him say these phrases over and over again, and then he vanishes. So quite an experience to have. This Victorian era man. Nobody really knows who he is. Don't know what the backstory is. The number 9 ghost is actually a couple. It is a Victorian wedding couple, who is dressed in their wedding vows. They will come walking through the dining room. Their apparition will suddenly walk through the dining room, and you might be, what is going on here? And they're very happy, pleasant, going on there to be married, but don't seem to acknowledge people, just go about their business and then fade away. So might just be a residual haunting. Who knows? No interaction there. There is also a ghostly doorman, the 10th ghost, who resides on the 2nd floor. And he's in a black suit. And many people have said that he will greet them at the top of the stairs. He'll offer to take their luggage, show them to the room, open the room for them. And as they go into the room, they turn around to tip him, and he's gone. He vanishes. So the ghostly doorman seems to help out a bit here and there with the Crescent Hotel. And then the final ghost is a ghost they call the Girl in the Mist. And this young girl met a tragic end, is that she either fell or jumped from the hotel's balcony, and that she reenacts this over and over again. You will see her on one of the balconies, and you'll see her fall and then vanish. So no one really knows the story behind that or why that's occurring, because there's no record of someone perishing in that manner. but she is the 11th ghost, the girl in the mist. And there's also been other accounts of activity that occur in the Crescent Hotel. The most unbelievable one was that a Christmas tree, believe it or not, a Christmas tree and presents was set up one Christmas in the living room. Everyone went to bed that evening, and then the next morning, it appeared in a different room, completely, as if it was picked up and moved. Now, this is a very large tree, a 10-foot, 12-foot tree, decorated and presents picked up and moved to a different floor, a different room, the dining room as opposed to the living room. So I don't know if that's true. I don't know where that story came from, but it's one that has baffled people, and intrigued people, I guess, and how no one knows how that happened. So that's the Crescent Hotel. And that's your sixth and final story of the evening for Arkansas. So I hope you enjoyed each and every one of those. Now, I mentioned that the photos that I have to show you are related to the last story, and it's the Crescent Hotel that they're related to. So I have some photos I'm going to show you. These photos were all taken in the Crescent Hotel, and they are said to be accounts of ghosts. There seem to be pictures of ghosts. So we're going to go through them and you tell me what you think. Hello, Joe Town Jack in the house. Hi, Gina. Thank you for coming in. All right, let's start off with my first one here. Hold on. Why is this not working? I don't know why this is not working the way it should. What do you say here? Anyway, all right, let's see if we can get this on here. Let's see here. Can you see this? Let's say, no, you can't see that. That's not good. Hold on. All right, hold on a second here. I don't know why this is happening. I put them in a different folder this time, and I thought it would make it easier, but it seems like it's not making it easier. It's making it more difficult. Let's try this again. Hmm. All right, hold on a second here. Let's try something different. All right, cancel that. I apologize. I don't know why this is not working. All right, here we go. Maybe I got it now. I think I may have it now. All right, hold on. All right. Let's try this. Sorry about that. All right, here we go. Here's the first picture. Now, this picture is said to be taken in one of the rooms in here, one of the rooms in the Crescent Hotel. And as you can see, it looks like mist, but if you really look at it, you could say that it looks like the shape of a ghost. You could say that this is arms and legs. So I don't know. This was taken in one of the rooms of the Crescent Hotel. Now, I don't know. You see it. You could see in the background. This is in front of a chair. There's a chair here, so you could use the chair to give you some perspective of what you're looking at, the size of this thing. I don't know. I don't know what this is. I mean, it doesn't look like a blur of a camera. It kind of looks like a type of a fog or a mist, but it's indoors. So you got me what this is. I don't know what this is. But that's the first one that was taken inside the Crescent Hotel. That's said to be either the boy Breckenridge, Clifton Breckenridge. They say he likes to be show up in photographs. This might be him. I don't know. But that's your first one there. All right. Let's stop sharing that screen. Let's go back to here. Now, this is a video. So let's try this. See how this works here. All right. Now, this video is said to be taken in the kitchen. Now, watch on the right side of the screen. You see something floating. There you go. Right across in front of the camera. There it is again. Coming across and then goes. It actually, there's a trail behind it over there. Like a misty trail. And that could be something blurred. You know, it could be something just, motion-wise, it's blurring. But what would be flying in the kitchen like that is my question. Coming through the wall. Yeah, right. Exactly, Delilah. Like it came from the wall, right? Let's play that again. So I don't know. I don't think that's a bug or, anything like that. It's very odd. There you go. Interesting, right? Orb. Noel says it's an orb. Mm-hmm. It's just not a very good orb in terms of its circumference. Circumference. It's not of an orb. It's all over the place. It's like moving all over the place. It's kind of weird. I've never seen an orb do that before. No, you know what that is? That's a cutout. Suzanne, that's a cutout of a man in Dickens era clothing that they use during the holidays. And there's also a woman cut out here too. See, there's a woman next to it. There's a man and a woman. So yeah, that's not a ghost or anything like that. That's just a cutout that they would use for decorations. So there you got it. There you have it. So that's an interesting one. I thought that was kind of cool. All right. Let's get rid of that. Let me see what else I can show you here. There's some more pictures that took place inside. All right, here we go. This one comes from a bedroom. As you can see, this is a bedroom looking out, and this is one of the windows. Now, I don't know what this could possibly be in front of the camera. I do not know. It's very strange looking, very strange. Like this is the window over. You can see the window in the background, and this is the seat in front of the window, and this is the bedspread. So I don't know what that could be, quite frankly. Doesn't take the shape of anything per se, but it's just bizarre. So just a bit creepy looking there. Hello, CG2. Good to see you. This one is Slimity. This one's Slimity, sweetie. Ooh, what happened there? We don't want that. Get out of here. Anyway, um, so there you go. There you go. That. Hold on. Let me see something here. Hold on. Let me put myself back on here. Here we go. All right. Let me get rid of that. Let's go on to the next one. This one is taken outside of the Crescent Motel. And this one could very easily be fog, but you take a look at it and you tell me what you think. Just to me, it just looks like a foggy evening. But where the heck is it? Where the heck did it go? Hold on here. Hold on. Hold your horses. Hold on. All right, here's the problem. Okay. Back we go. Here we go. This looks like a very foggy evening in front of the Crescent Hotel. So I don't attribute this to anything other than that. Now they claim that this was not, again, you're going back to my rules of debunking. If you consider, you have to be able to believe the person who's giving you the circumstances around the photo. The person that took this photo claims there was no fog in the area at the time. Now, who knows? You can't go based on just somebody saying that. So I'm just going to contribute it to be fog. All right. All right. Now, this is where this one's good. Hold on. This one is really creepy. Hold on. You're going to like this one. Again, inside the Crescent Hotel. Let's see what you think of this. Now, this is a reflection, and it is a woman in 18th century outfit. It's in the reflection of these windows. So this one creeps me out. This one looks really creepy. Now, why it's on a tilt, I do not know, but you can definitely make out a woman in the upper left-hand corner there in the mirror, in the reflection of the glass. Tommy comes in about fog. He's talking about fog. We're past the fog, my friend. No more fog there. Nick M, good to see you, Nick M. So Delilah says the right one looks like the outline of a person's face. Interesting. McHugh, the cynic, saying it's photoshopped. I don't know about that. I don't know. But there you have it. This was inside the Crescent Hotel. All right, let's stop sharing that sucker. All right, let's go on to the next. Just two more. This one is outside again. This one is in the garden. Now, this one is strange. So tell me what you think of this. This is a pathway to the garden. Look at this. Look at all of the, I don't know if this is smoke I don't know what this is. It's almost as if someone was writing in the air with a lit something that was lit, and it was leaving a smoke trail as they took the picture. And again, the people that say they took this picture say there was no fog, there was no smoke in the vicinity. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, Delilah. It seems like if Arkansas is famous for fog, I guess so. It's kind of hot, right? Hot and steamy there in the south. So my guess there would be a lot of fog there. What's on top there? I know. I don't know. I see that. I see that there's something. Yeah, it looks like a pair of eyes or something there. I don't know what that is. I don't know. I see that. So I don't know. All right. Now, this is the last one coming up. Now, this last one is by far the creepiest, if you ask me. All right. Now, this is said to be a photograph that was taken in the Crescent Hotel by accident. Now, you know how when you have a cell phone, a lot of times you'll be taking pictures and then you'll see other pictures that show up there of nonsense, right? Because by accident you clicked it. Well, this was clicked by accident. It was a picture of the wall. So it wasn't supposed to be a picture. It was just someone with their phone taking pictures, and then when they went back and looked, they saw that they inadvertently took a picture of the wall, which was a burnt red kind of wall, like a burnt beige wall. Excuse me. But this is what they see. Now take a look at this. This is bizarre. Now, there is no doubting that this is a woman's face. Without a question, this is a woman's face. In fact, it looks like almost like a death mask. The eyes are closed. You could see the ear, the hair is pulled back. And this was simply taken, showing up on a picture taken of a wall, an inadvertent picture of wallpaper. This shows up on the camera. So this one is pretty scary to me, pretty creepy to me. So I don't know. What do you think about this one? I mean, to me, it looks like someone who's dead. It's like a death mask. It's just very creepy. If this showed up on my phone and I didn't know where it came from, I would have a problem sleeping that evening. But this all comes from inside the Crescent Hotel. Tommy says it looks like Thindu. No, this has hair. It looks like this has hair. It can't be Thindu. A dust storm. Okay, McHugh. So there you have it. That's my last one. I hope you liked that. I thought that one was the best. To save the last one for last. But a lot of stuff, there's no doubt, a lot of stuff goes on in the Crescent Hotel in Arkansas. If I were to go someplace in Arkansas and to be looking for ghosts, that's where I would go. I mean, you have 11 different stories in that specific hotel and pictures to back them up, pictures that show something. Whether you believe it or not, they show something. So it's someplace that I'd rather go. I would go if I'm looking for ghosts in Arkansas. And Joe Town says, this looks like Thendu? Lenny, he's calling you Thendu. I don't know about that. I don't know how you feel about that. I don't think he's too happy about that. He's his own man. He's not Thendu. Lenny's his own man. So congratulations to Deborah Roberts. Why? What happened? I missed this. I got a Vito. Oh, you got a dog. Ah, very nice. Best of luck. Best of luck with your new Vito. So anyway, that is my show for this evening. I hope you enjoyed it. Ghosts of Arkansas, 6 stories, many ghosts, some cool pictures to look at and think about. And next week we're gonna have. I'm gonna try to do a baseball themed ghost stories around baseball. So look forward to that. I think the thumbnail is already up. Yeah, it's already up. So click on the notify to that. Help me out by liking this or leaving a comment after. Leaving the comments after are the best. They really help get the show out. So that would be helpful. Thanks again to Paulie for giving out 5 memberships. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Paulie. I think that brings my memberships to 10. That's pretty awesome. So as always, I will say thank you, each and every one of you, for joining. And on behalf of Lenny, Victor, and Edgar, who's hanging out, floating back there, we want to say thank you for watching. Stay scared, and we will see you next time on Friday Night Ghost Stories. Let's blow out the candles and have everyone have a wonderful weekend. God bless. If I can shut this off. There we go. See you later, guys.